Hello and welcome back to the lab. Today on the bench we have a continuation of the 5200A repair saga. This is the oscillator board from the 5200A. I've recapped this board. Not quite sure if there's anything wrong with it yet. I did order a second oscillator board to go in the 5200A, but that one didn't work either. So we're into troubleshooting oscillator boards, but now I have a full complement of spare parts. So even if there's something really out of whack that's obscure and hard to get, I should have some spare parts. We should be able to move forward, assuming the same part's not dead on both boards. That's always a possibility. After a recap of this board, I threw it in the power supply, or threw it in the supply to see what would fire up. And very quickly, the overload light came on and smoke started to come out of the supply. That led into power supply troubleshooting as well, and we have the regulator board out. I do have this fixed. It's not fixed correctly, so I do need to order a couple of parts. However, when I put this board back in, I overcurrented the negative 15-volt rail and burned up. I had the transistor here. There it is. Had the transistor here a minute ago. Burned up that transistor. That is the pass element for the negative 15-volt rail. It is an RCA 4410. The heatsink is actually integrated onto the transistor. I thought this was a transistor in a heatsink. This is actually the package as it comes from the factory. So you cannot separate the active element from that heatsink. It's all one piece. So interesting design. High-ish wattage. P&P transistor. I had a NTE part from another build. This was actually Tektronix pass elements for the TM5000 frame. I think one of them was dead and I needed some parts, so I ordered some extra. Pinouts changed a little bit, and I do, before this is all said and done, I do need to put a heatsink on this. The resistor that fries up and burns when you overload the negative 15-volt rail and short the supply is this resistor right here. This is I forget what was in there, but it charred up into a briquette, and it was pretty dead. So that's going to be Q16, and the resistor is R29. It's an 8.2 ohm resistor. That's essentially the current limit for that transistor, and it smoked really, really badly. That is the part that actually burned up. The pass element shorted, overcurrented the rail, and the current limit resistor turned into a charcoal briquette. I've got a 10 ohm resistor in there now just for testing. I will order a 8.2 ohm resistor, not a value that I usually stock in the lab, so we'll order a batch of 100 and get some in here. Also need to get some P&P transistors because as I was digging around in the lab, lots of NPN stuff, not a lot of P&P stuff, so we'll buy some spares just in case we need them. I also need to get a heat sink for that transistor and get it all squared away before it's safe for the long haul. It's good for testing, but need to make that fully functional. Finding this short was actually kind of a pain. Using a DMM, I did some probing on the power rails and found a 0.125 ohm short to ground on the negative 15-volt rail. Well, there's my overcurrent. I did voltage injection on the positive and minus rails. That's actually where this solder came in a little bit. I had the DP832 hooked up, and we were doing voltage injection. Nothing was getting hot. Even with 3 amps going through it, it was such a low current short. It was actually kind of hard to find. What it turned out being is I bridged the connection on this capacitor. So as I went back and I really inspected everything, there was a little solder bridge right here where I'd moved the iron too quickly to the other pad, and it jumped across, which was my dead short on the negative 15-volt rail. So let me get the screws put back in this. We'll get the power frame back up here, and let's see if this thing actually goes. If it does, great. If not, we got some more work to do. Even if it does go, we have a bit more work to do on this in-guard regulator before it's good for the long haul. So let me get the screws put back in. We'll get the power frame back up here, put it in. I was very concerned that we may have taken out the power amplifier. The power amplifier is kind of sensitive in these units. Good news is my power amplifier is just fine, and it did not suffer any damage. So we only took a half a step back with the regulator dying. But this is now fully recapped, and we'll see what we can do. If this thing is still not working, the next step is going to be to start checking some of the op amps. They're the next, as long as the board didn't get sparked. If the board got sparked, any of the FET switches could be bad, but the op amps are the next kind of likely suspect. If all else fails, we'll hit the troubleshooting document and go through that step by step, and it'll lead us to where the problem is, I'm sure. All right, you guys keep an eye out for excitement. Overload light went out, so that's a good sign. I'll be happy if we get any kind of output out of the unit. So if it fires up and throws something out, I'll be thrilled. That regulator is still not putting out the correct voltage, so it's a little off, but any output I'll be ecstatic with. Need to wait for it to come out of standby. And no dice. So it never actually went into standby, but it did go to when I kicked it over, it did go to operate after it sat for a bit. So, but no output. Let's try the other oscillator board and see if that goes a little bit better. And then if not, we're into oscillator board testing. All right, we're back. Postman came and everything was, parts order got delivered. I got some things rebuilt. I'll show you the power supply here in a little bit. I'm queued up to do some testing, so let's see if we actually got the oscillator board fixed. I'm sort of optimistic. Some of you may see some parts on the workbench and know what might have been wrong. So I did order some 8.2 ohm half-watt resistors. The bottom one's in the front. The top line's in the back. So 8.2 ohm half-watt 1%. There is the part number, if anybody's curious. And a 10 ohm resistor was a little much for the power supply. 8.2 was spec'd. I also bumped the wattage because it was 8.2 at a quarter watt. It's now 8.2 at a half. So that is all good. We'll kick the power supply. We'll kick the unit on. No smoke. That's good. We're asking for 1 volt, 1 kilohertz, but we have to wait for the onboarding. We have to wait for the warm-up. Did find out this transistor fried up in the power supply. That needed to be replaced. I replaced that with a NTE 183. It was a PNP transistor, so did need to get the polarity right with a good resistor. Our rail came back. So let's see. I have done a repair on the oscillator board, only one. So let's see if the oscillator needs more or if we have a functioning unit. So we've got our set to AC volts, 1 volt, 1 kilohertz, and we have an output. So we have a functioning 5200A. Both of them were fixed, and we now have 2 complete functioning units. No cards were stolen out of Unit 1 to get this guy to work, so we have Unit 1 and Unit 2 are both outputting. Unit 2 is going to need a calibration. Unit 1 needs a calibration, to be honest. But let me print out some schematics, tell you guys what was going on, and bring you all up to speed, and then we'll get into some trouble as to why calibrating this thing is going to be difficult. Okay, here's our schematic points of interest. I don't have Curious Mark's elevator music. Could probably use it with this explanation, but we'll have to go at it with what we got. So R2 on the oscillator board actually sits in between the negative 15 and positive 15 volt rails. And then the wiper of that goes to a 47 mega ohm resistor and into the offset of U1. What was going on was I took a measurement at the output of U1, and if I rotated this through its range, the op amp should have moved. It should have tried to compensate for the offset. It was railed. It was just stuck at 14.95, and that op amp was just railed off into orbit. So replacing that was where you guys came in after I'd put that on the oscillator board. Grabbed it from the other one, and lo and behold, it got the oscillator up and running again. So that was the only thing that was wrong with the oscillator board, at least until the calibration shows us something different. Here's some of our bad parts. Here's some more of our bad parts. And I think there's even more. Yeah, there's even more bad parts. We have bad caps in here. We have blown up transistors. Here's our U1 that died. It's an LM301AN in the military package. So still purchasable today. I could have gotten a new one. Didn't know what I was going to need. And between the two units, we've replaced all these capacitors to stabilize both units. They really both, after all of this work, these guys need a calibration again. Now, this is an AC unit, which causes me some accuracy problems all over the place when doing a calibration. So we're going to need to use the Bilstein to thermally take the AC into DC, but then I need a DC supply to compare it to, and on and on and on and so forth. So lots of stuff we're going to have to do to actually get one of these things calibrated. To that end, we have a bit of foreshadowing for future videos and future content. We have this thing. So I have a EDC 1030G, which has a nulling galvanometer in it. The problem is I cannot find a service manual to go through that galvo and verify it. I can verify the DC supply. I can do that all day long. It's not a problem. Setting that galvo properly, I don't know what the adjustment points are at the moment, and I can't find anything that actually gives me good information on that. So I needed a null meter. Enter this thing, which is a Fluke 845AR as opposed to the AB. You're gonna see some rack gear come into the channel, and that's kind of foreshadowing to some future plans. I liked this unit for two reasons. One, it was rack mount. It's very, very light, solid because of the 1 microvolt range. This thing is completely solidly shielded, no air holes, no nothing. It is a solid RF shield, and there's actually a double RF shield in here, which we're going to get into. This does need servicing before we turn it on, and this will need a calibration and alignment before we use it to align this. So we got to build the chain up just like we did with the scopes and everything like that. I got to build the AC side of the lab now. So, and I'm going to bring you guys along as I climb that hill. This is an upcoming video. We are going to put a couple of null meters on the channel and get that stuff into the wheelhouse, but going to need that before we can do the calibration on this. So if there's a delay between the repair of both units and the calibration video, the delay is the lab's actually not ready to calibrate an AC source of this accuracy, and we have to get it there. So that's coming up. This is sat off for long enough now, and it's been unplugged. Show you guys how we fix that power supply. And I'm also going to need to let this run for a bit just to make sure the transistor's not going to get too hot. But there's that NTE transistor with a heatsink. And yes, there are much better options to go in there. That is working for now. If I think of a better option, I will let you guys know. There is plenty of clearance on that. Everything's good to go. It clears even when I put the lid back on. Just like so. And doesn't short to anything. So it is, depending on what happens with this unit, that might be a temporary permanent solution. I'm not 100% sure yet. If this unit does leave the lab, where if anybody's interested in possibly purchasing this unit or getting one calibrated, it will not leave that way. That's fine for my personal use, but if I'm sending that to somebody else's lab, it will not stay that way. I also need to do some long-term runtime, monitor the thermal. This has a decent heatsink on it. It's only a 5-volt rail. That's well above the rating, or well under the ratings for that particular part, so I have no concerns there. Want to make sure that transistor doesn't overheat. So, as always, thanks for joining. We have 2 working 5200As. That makes a total of 3 here in the lab. I've got the one that I've been using for all my videos. 2 of these are now fixed and up and running, and I have 1 of the power amplifiers that needs to be gone through and looked at. That one's got some spicy voltages in it. That power supply is 4 kV, and it's 4 kV into the capacitors. So, and that is bench-breakingly heavy. Moving around those 5205s, there's some gravity in those. There's a giant transformer in them is where the gravity comes from, but it is what it is. It's what we got. I do have 1 of the interconnecting cables, so if we get the 5205 up and running, we'll have a full set of 5200 and the calibrator with 1 extra 5200A that we can work on and calibrate. So, thanks for swinging by the lab. As always, if you like what you see, hit all the YouTube buttons, like, share, and subscribe, and hang around. If you'd like to support the lab or check out some additional content, head over to the Patreon page and see what's there. Patrons help keep the lights on here in the lab and videos coming up to YouTube. Everything that comes in from Patreon goes right back into making videos and to bring you guys more content. So, as always, more is on the way, and I'll see everybody in the next video. Bye for now.